Now, last time we looked at all the Sheikah stone secrets from Ocarina of Time, and since so many of you loved that video and wanted more, I decided to look at those seen in Majora's Mask as well. And the secrets these stones hold aren't just useful for completing the game, but also reveal some extra details that could surprise you, and even change your mind on certain things. Now let's start with Termina Field. On the east side you will find a Sheikah stone with a neat little secret that could spark the curiosity of a player, because it says, it seems that the hideout of Sheikah the thief is tucked away at the edge of Ikana Canyon. So by the looks of it, this seasoned criminal was not able to remain undetected. The Sheikah stone saw him, and even some guards in Clock Town are aware of his work. And this could inspire the player to check out this mysterious hideout. In many ways, you need hints like this in Majora's Mask, because the game is very cryptic and there's a lot going on. Now moving on to the north side of this massive field, you will find another stone that has a little secret that you could take advantage of. Anju, the woman at the inn, is known for being careless and frequently mixes up guests. Now when you first read this, you probably have no idea what to do with this. But as you observe what happens in the 3-day cycle again and again, you will notice that you can exploit this, taking a room from a Goron who has the same name as you, allowing you to grab the knife chamber, forcing the real owner onto the streets. Really little details like this and paying attention during those 3-day cycles allows you to figure out what you need to do, which is one thing I absolutely love about this game. Moving over to the western side of this area, we once again stumble upon one of those spying stones, and this one says something rather odd. The symbol of marriage. The couple's mask seems to have the power to calm and silence arguments. Now, as most of you know, this is a little hint that this mask, filled with love, can be used to stop the endless discussion between those who want to flee Clock Town due to the moon and those that want to stay, which is driving the mayor insane. But in a way, it also alludes to something more. It could be that this mask has actual powers, ones that almost mesmerize those who see it and get rid of their stress. Many masks in this game are truly magical after all, so maybe that's the case here as well, with the event of love that created it, filling it with a special kind of magic, which worked incredibly well on the mayor. Now, close to Milk Road, you will find a Sheikah stone that helps you to get into the exclusive Milk Bar, even though Link is not really allowed in there. It says, it seems that you can become a Milk Bar member if you do a good deed at the ranch. Now, this is referring to the whole Romani Ranch questline, which results in Link obtaining a huge cow mask, allowing him to enter the bar. However, this makes me wonder, does everyone need to do a special favor for the ranch in order to join this club? Or is it just something any adult can join as long as they have enough rupees? As far as I could find, some of this is explained in-game, with Kremia telling Malon in the last hours before the moon crashes that she will make a mask for her, which officially makes her an adult. So I guess this is some sort of ritual that exists in Termina. Now, this next secret from the Sheikah stones is rather odd. It says, it seems that the crows that fly near the town walls are fond of musical instruments. Now, if you look into all of this online, you will find a number of posts where people are absolutely confused. While they tried everything, nothing works. But if you play an ocarina song from a temple near this bird known as a gwei, it will drop extra rupees for you as it flies, which is nothing more than a fun little Easter egg, which this game is filled with. And I bet that this gwei got his hands on these rupees by either finding them or stealing them from travelers. But who knows why he starts dropping them as soon as you play one of the songs associated with the dungeons. Now, this next Sheikah stone is inside the grounds of the Astral Observatory, and apparently this one has been keeping an eye on one particular person. The postman puts his delivery schedule before everything else, but priority mail is of even greater importance. Now, out of all the Zelda characters throughout the series, there's one that is the most workaholic of all, the postman from Majora's Mask. He will do anything to complete his work. In the end, he even has some sort of mental breakdown over whether he wants to stay or flee like all the others, because the moon is coming down fast. Truly a fascinating character that seems to push himself way way too far, and Link can help him let go in the end. Now the last couple of stones found in Termina Field are all connected in a way. They say the following: it seems the face of the slightly larger, strange stone changes when the Pipes of Awakening are played, and it says a similar thing in other locations, but every time it mentions one of the other instruments you can use. In the end, the goal is to play the same song for these stones so they all become the same color, and if you do this, you get a heart piece. Now this has to be one of the most cryptic puzzles in the entire game, but if you want to 100% this Zelda title, figuring this out is a must. However, I will admit, I have no idea why this works, and why these stones even have this heart piece. However, in the swamp of Termina, we once again find a number of Sheikah stones with interesting secrets that could either help a player or shed new light on certain people we encounter in the game. Now heading towards the southern swamp, you will hear of a Sheikah secret that could be valuable to some characters in Termina. It seems the terrace door of the town's Stockpot Inn has carelessly been left unlocked. Now we have no idea how it figured this out. Maybe another stone uncovered this secret and shared it with this one, creating some sort of spy network. And if this information fell into the wrong hands, it could lead to disaster. Think of Sheikah, for example, who steals all kinds of things in Termina. If he would find out about this door, it could mean the end for the Stockpot Inn, with everyone's stuff getting stolen. So let's hope that Sheikah never gets his hands on this powerful mask. Now moving on to the Magic Hag's potion shop, we hear another rumor that requires a bit of extra context. It says, the Swamp Tourist Center will not accept pictographs taken outside the swamp, but if you bring a picture of the guide's son, he will give you something nice. When you first read this without any context, you might think, who is his son? Well, close by you will find your answer, with Tingle flying high above, drawing maps of the area. This strange character was first seen in this title, and he is nothing more than a fairy-obsessed middle-aged man that is an embarrassment for his father. It is clear that in many ways this man is delusional, and if his father sees a picture of him, he seems to be incredibly embarrassed. He even blames himself for the situation, but he still gives you a reward for the picture. Now it's unclear what kind of relationship they have, and how they grew apart over the years, because it's clear that they haven't seen each other in years. Meanwhile, we hear nothing of Tingle's mom. So clearly the family dynamic here is strange, and might have even led to the strange person that Tingle has become. Now moving on to the last location of the swamp, the Spider House. Here a Sheikah stone tells us something interesting about the Mask of Truth, which you obtain here. The mask that can see into people's hearts and minds also seems to work on animals as well. You can even test this claim right away by talking to the dog found inside, who will tell you about the situation of the cursed man. And this can also be used at the racetrack to pick the winning dog. Now all of this shows us that this mask can read the minds of lesser beings, while Hylians and humans cannot be read directly, most likely because they are mentally too strong, and compared to them, animals are easy. You can hear their inner thoughts all of a sudden, which is kind of crazy, but it does tell us something. While this mask is powerful, it isn't as strong as some would think, with even children's minds being unreadable. Now moving on to the frozen mountains where the Gorons live in Termina, we once again stumble upon a number of stones that hold a surprising amount of data that I didn't even know. The one at the road towards the mountain village says, the gold dust won as the prize in the Goron races in spring can be used by the smithy to forge a sword, or it can be sold to the smithy for 40 rupees, but the curiosity shop will buy it for 200 rupees. Now this material is needed to create the ultimate version of Link's sword that stays the same even when you go back in time. So usually players will immediately use it to create the gilded sword. However, I never knew that the smith would screw you over. It is clear that the mountain smithy is a bit of a horrible person who can be incredibly mean and also manipulative. And the fact that he only gives you 40 rupees already shows this, because we have seen that the curiosity shop owner also screws people over, but he still gives you 5 times times as much, which is probably still nothing compared to what this dust is actually worth, which shows that the world of Termina is filled with conmen that try to outplay you constantly. Now, this next effigy found in the tunnel to the Goron graveyard is rather direct with its information, straight up telling you how to complete one of the most tedious quests in the game. The frogs that are supposed to gather in the mountain when spring arrives are elsewhere. You need Don Gero's mask to bring them together. The frogs in Clock Town, the swamp, Woodfall Temple and Great Bay Temple make 4. Now, this seems to be some sort of crucial ritual here in the mountains of Termina. However, due to Majora, who cursed these frogs and turned them into hideous monsters, the choir is incomplete. It could even be that this was needed to transform this area into the snow-filled hell we encounter at the beginning of the game. He had to prevent the frogs from announcing and cementing the fact that spring is here. Their role seems important after all, but very little is explained in-game. So it could very well be that the Skull Kid did all of this on purpose when it comes to the demon frog mini-bosses that we encounter in the 4 dungeons of Termina. Now, when you're close to the frog choir, you will notice that there's actually another Sheikah stone that tells you something rather small that isn't too important. A small lost horse seems to have been taken in by Romani Ranch, south of town. This stone is clearly talking about Epona, who was lost after the Skull Kid took off on it in the very beginning of the game. So while this is a useful hint, it isn't too special. However, if we head over there, we once again find a lot of these artifacts, and some have crazy secrets. Over on Milk Road, one of these shares a rather grim secret, something no one in Termina seems to be aware of, but the consequences are dire. The spirit of a charismatic dancer who died in Termina Field dances there night after night. This hint is all about Camaro, a talented dancer who must have been adored in many ways, but in the end, everyone forgot about him and he ended up dying alone on the road, with him being stuck on this mortal plane. Now, it is not clear what exactly happened to him. It could be that someone or thing attacked and killed him, or maybe he passed away due to natural causes. We simply don't know. And the only way we can help him pass on is by learning about his craft and sharing it with the world so he's not completely forgotten, which in many ways is similar to what we see with the Hero of Time and Twilight Princess. So with the hero helping someone else with his regret before he would ever face it himself is thematically beautiful, in my opinion. Now, as we move towards the actual ranch, we find another one of these magical boulders, who talks about a rather mysterious deity in this game. It seems Keaton, the ghost fox, plays tricks in the grass. Now, this is a little tip for the player to mess around with the many patches of grass found in the game, where this supernatural creature will spawn when you cut the grass. They are derived from the mythological fox creatures known as kitsune, which are 9-tailed foxes. They are a type of yokai, having high intelligence and magical or supernatural powers, which is exactly what we see in-game, and I bet that the Sheikah stones are able to sense them. They are magical after all, and we've seen in the past that Sheikah magic is capable of doing this. However, in many ways these foxes remain mysterious, but I covered them in older videos, which I will link to in the description down below. Now, as we actually run around on this farm, we come across one stone that will help you with a quest nearby, but what it exactly does is interesting. The animal band leader's mask seems to have strange powers of making young animals mature. This is super useful when helping out Grog, but what I always wondered is, how can it rapidly age these chicks into fully fledged cuckoos? Now, the metaphor of this item is that good leadership can help people mature and grow, so it could be that it truly does this, and with a bit of magic, turns them into adults at a rapid pace. So maybe this mask, together with its song and the Ocarina of Time, ages these chicks with time magic. That is one of the main mechanics of this game after all. But we have no idea, because Nintendo provides very little information in-game. Now close to the barn, another rock is located, and this one is aware of a rather sensitive situation. The biggest love triangle in Zelda history, that even the inhabitants of the ranch are involved in. It seems that Cafe, whose whereabouts are unknown, is awaiting a letter from Anju. Now you can only really use this information to finish the Anju and Cafe questline to obtain the couple's mask. But to be honest, the fact that this piece of information is found here can almost not be a coincidence. Kremya, the owner of the ranch, is a close friend of the stockpot innkeeper Anju, and it is revealed by Romani that she has a crush on Cafe, Anju's fiance. Like I said, a classic love triangle, with Kremya smack bang in the middle of it, and the Sheikah stones are clearly aware to an extent. Maybe Kremya even heard something from Cafe or Anju, but we can't really be sure of that. Now over to the Kuko shed, another one can be found, and it gives a horrifying description of an ominous mask. A torture device of insomnia called the All-Night Mask seems to be available at the Curiosity shop. Now this is true. It used to belong to Seikon, and who knows why he used to own it. Well, that's what I assume at least. Because it is only for sale if Seikon can't steal anything. So maybe this is something from his collection that he decided to sell. We can see that his hideout is filled with a crazy amount of loot. Or maybe someone else sold it here. But regardless, whoever decided to sell it was certainly a bit of a shady person. Because someone who owns a mask that used to be a torture device and keeps your eyes forced open is not really a normal person. It sounds like something that would have been used in warmongering nations like the Ikana, or that one nation they are at war with. However, we have no idea really. In the end, Nintendo never tells us anything. Now there's one last secret involving one of the most interesting products made at this ranch. It seems that drinking Chateau Romani makes your energy power last for 3 days. This special milk is unlike anything else in the game, and it's incredibly expensive, going for 200 rupees a pop. However, it clearly has some crazy powers, and it is even stated in-game that only adults are allowed to drink it. So what is up with this special milk? Well, in-game you can find 2 quotes that are quite interesting. It's a vintage milk, and the special Romani bred cows are the source of Chateau Romani, the most desired of forbidden milk. Clearly, this stuff is being treated like wine in the real world. It could even be that it's alcoholic, and that's why children aren't allowed to have it. We can see that those who drink it seem to become intoxicated. However, I wonder why it's described as forbidden. Is it a product that is frowned upon? Or maybe even illegal in some parts of the world? Could be. It is clear that this milk is special due to the specific cow breed and how it's aged, leading to a drink that is quite potent. So clearly this milk is anything but ordinary. But we got some other secrets to cover on the other side of Termina. Now, there are only 2 stones in the Great Bay Area, which is actually very little for how big this place is. One can be found just past the Zora game, which gives you a little tip for helping the most famous Zora band come up with new music. To get Evan to listen to Macau and Jappa's song from their music session, you should not try to demonstrate it as Macau. It seems if you pose as someone unrelated to the band and begin playing it, you just might get him to lend an ear. This clearly shows how stubborn some of the members can be, which this Sheikah effigy is aware of, which once again shows that these things are spying on people. But this is only really useful for obtaining a piece of heart. Now the second is seen at the entrance of the Pirate's Fortress, and depending on the version you're playing, there are 2 different messages. The reward for Romani's nighttime assistance seems to be something that holds milk, or a soldier with a mask that allows him to move around unnoticed is said to be in a heap of trouble at the Pirate's Fortress. He's waiting for a hero to rescue him, but since he's basically invisible, said hero will need the lens of truth to pull it off. Now the first just alludes to the bottle you receive from Romani after you help her with the ghosts, while the other talks about Shiro the invisible soldier that was moved to the fortress in the 3DS version. The fact that he was moved there is actually quite interesting. It is clear that he sneaked in using the stone mask, but something went wrong, and so he's stuck up there. According to him, he thought this would make him look brave and potentially stand out for once. So while you might think at first that this was some sort of undercover mission, potentially in collaboration with the Zora, he's just a lone actor. And all of this makes a lot more sense than him just walking in Ikana Valley for no apparent reason. Actually, now that I mentioned that desolate place, there are also a number of Sheikah stones there, some of whom even mention Shiro himself. On the road to Ikana, one of these stones will mention that Shiro can actually be found close by, but the lens of truth is needed to actually spot him, which doesn't really surprise me, because the one thing that can see him is an item that was also made by the Sheikah. So I bet that this stone has similar powers, allowing it to spot the fallen soldier that nobody ever notices. We can see an eye on the stone after all, so maybe it could do more than just hear. It can also see what's going on and look through obstacles as well as minor illusions, just like the lens of truth. But there are some other stones with much more fascinating secrets. Here, close to the spirit house, we once again find one of these spying Sheikah devices, and this one kept an eye on the music box house in the middle of this abandoned kingdom. It says, Pamela, who lives in the music box house, comes out every 2 minutes when the music box is playing, but it seems she will also come out if she hears a bomb explode. Now, the first part of this secret is not really new to anyone. However, the second section is truly fascinating in my opinion. I never really knew that this would work in-game. I always waited for her to come out again if I accidentally scared her off. But as you can see, grabbing her attention using explosives actually works, which once again shows us all that no matter how often you play the game, you can always find new stuff that you never knew about before. Meanwhile, on the dock of Ikana Canyon, another stone can be found that seems to have been there for a long time, because it holds secrets that almost no one knows about in the current age. It seems the re-deads that appear in Ikana Castle start dancing when a captain's hat, Gypto mask or Gyro's mask is worn, but this does not change things much. Now, many of us have tried this before in-game. It is a rather well-known Easter egg after all, that is fun, but not very useful or anything. The reason why they dance is because they used to be the castle's dancing troupe, before they were presumably killed during the conflict that left Ikana Kingdom a shadow of its former self. Now, we don't really know when this conflict happened, but it is clear that the Sheikah stone was there to witness it, because this information is something no one really knows about, which shows that these things have been in Termina for a very long time. Now, the last stone can be found across the ravine from Seikon's hideout, and it is the only one that mentions the most powerful mask in the game, the Fierce Deity mask. A mask that contains the merits of all masks seems to be somewhere in this world. This is an interesting description of this item. Overall, it is one of the most mysterious masks that can be found in the game. Its power is immense, but we have no idea who it is. But apparently, according to the Sheikah stone, it contains the power or merit of all the other masks combined, making it the ultimate one. This was even confirmed by Nintendo. When asked about the lore or whose soul inhabits the Fierce Deity mask, series producer Eiji Ayanuma noted that the mask represents an accumulation of the memories and emotions of the people of Termina, which once again builds upon what the Sheikah stone says in-game. So anyway, Nintendo did give us an answer. Now, those were all the Sheikah stones in Majora's Mask. Well, I mean, there are a couple of others found on the moon. However, those don't really share interesting information whatsoever. They just state who owns certain masks. So that isn't really worth talking about. But don't worry, I made another video covering all the Sheikah stones in Ocarina of Time, so be sure to check that out. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Be sure to check out the other videos. Be sure to subscribe and like, because then you won't miss any future uploads. And remember, I stream here on YouTube 3 times a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so come hang out. Aside from that, I love you all. Bye.